Today we're going to take a look at the similarities and differences of two very unique knives. I'm talking about the Kizer Cormorant versus the Spyderco Smock. And I promise you, okay, at the end of all this, there will be one left standing. That's right. Two knives enter, one knife leaves. As usual, links to buy and the full specs for both knives will be listed down in the description below. Hey, how you doing? If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. My name is Jay. Go ahead and consider clicking on that subscribe if you're looking for knife reviews that get right to the point. As you can see now, the Smock, it's a larger knife overall at about 7.9 inches compared to the Cormorant at 7.3. Most of the added length does come from the 4.5 inch handle on the Smock compared to the 4.1 inch for the Kizer. Now the rest of that length difference is going to be in the blades. So you can see the sheep's foot on the Smock is about 3.4 inches. And then the clip point for the Cormorant is about 3.25 inches long, which means though that the Cormorant has a way better blade to handle ratio. But check this out though, even though, okay, the Smock it's a bigger knife, it has slightly less usable sharpened edge. So with the Cormorant here, you're going to be carrying less knife, but you get more edge to cut with. We're going to talk about the locks here in just a minute, but imagine here if the Smock's button, if it was up here, kind of like how they did with the Cormorant, we would get so much more usable sharpened edge with that blade because they had to cut out and make this big choil area so it could fit around the button assembly when the knife is closed. And speaking of similarities here, the blade stock thickness, it is exactly the same for both knives, and it's right at about 3 millimeters. Now, because of all that, I honestly thought that there would be more of a weight difference since the Smock is, again, much larger, and it looks like that there was a lot more steel that was used in the construction, but we're only looking at 3.67 ounces for the Smock and then 3.05 for the Cormorant. So yeah, we've already determined they both have button locks, but the way that the locks function on each knife, it's actually, they're different. I brought out my paramilitary too, just to make my point here that the Smock is basically just a compression lock. And the difference being, instead of pinching a little tab here like you would on the PM2, you would push a spring operated button, which then just moves the liner out of the way. Now, there's really not much that I can show you as far as like the internals go, but the Cormorant, it operates just like more of a standard plunge lock like that you will see on many automatic knives. All you do is you push this spring-operated button, which then moves a plunger into this side of the scale to release that blade. When the blades are closed, now the Smock has a detent to keep it closed, which is why it's more difficult to deploy the blade using the button. So you see I go ahead here and push it, and it doesn't just drop. I actually have to push it and then give it like a big shake to get it to deploy that way. And since the Cormorant relies on just the plunger to keep it closed, so when you push the button, yeah, you can see the blade just drops loose. They both do have back flippers and thumb holes, but because of the added, you can see that added front flipper on the Cormorant, it kind of gives it one more deployment method over the Smock. They both do have a ball bearing pivot, and both of them they both have really good action because of that. But for the deployment here with the Smock, it has more of an exposed, I should probably bring out the Cormorant too. You can see it has more of an exposed flipper tab, which I think really does make it easier when you're opening the Smock. Even though the Cormorant does have a smaller flipper, at least, Kizer went ahead and they put jimping on it, and the Smock flipper, you can see it does not, and that is just a decision by Spyderco I will never understand. Thumbhole deployment here is another story because on the Cormorant you can see it's completely exposed while it is partially obstructed here on the Smock. So since it's easier to get at the thumbhole, oh yeah, it's way easier to flick open. On the close here, I gotta go with the Kizer because it's just more of a free dropper with a button. Oh, that is just way easier to push. And you can see I don't have to I don't have to shake it or anything to get it to close. Now, not that the button on the Smock is hard to push. There's just a noticeable difference in the amount of pressure that's needed to unlock that blade and then to get it to close. Oh, and really quick, if you're liking this video so far, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Unfortunately, that awesome drop shut action, it does come with a really small compromise because that blade, yep, you see that? It tends to kind of bounce back unless you time it just right and you let go of the button right when the blade stops. You can see I'm having a hard time getting it. In my experience, nested liners are more likely to lead to a thinner handle, but it's not the case here because the Cormorant is a little thicker at 0.47 while the Smock is 0.45. It also has a slightly thinner closed width. Now, Kizer gives us a recessed 2-position deep carry pocket clip, while the Spyderco does not. We just get their standard clip, which you can see would look like just like that. Neither one is exceedingly more comfortable in hand than the other, but I will say this. It just feels more natural when I go ahead and choke up using that little choil on the Cormorant. The Smock does not have, you can see, it doesn't have a traditional choil. I mean, you can still use it like that and choke up, but it just, to me, it feels kind of awkward. This might be more of an issue for righties, but I really like where Kizer went ahead and positioned the button, and the fact, if you take a look close, yeah, it even has a little bit of jimping on it, and it's up and it's out of the way. So when I grip the knife to go ahead and to start cutting, and without looking at it, it's a lot easier for me to find the button here by touch because there's an obvious difference between how it feels on the scales and how it feels on the top of that button. The Smock has a much larger button that I definitely notice it when I'm gripping the knife in hand. I really wish that I understood the design on the G10 scales here a little bit more because, to be honest, I'd be okay with like these X's and stuff. I'd be okay if it wasn't there. Why don't we just go ahead and cut a few pieces of cardboard just to see if there's a noticeable difference between the Smock's hollow grind and the Cormorant's flat grind, and then I'll tell you the exact behind the edge thickness. All right, let's go ahead and start out with the Cormorant. Okay, well, pretty good. Let's jump to the Smock really quick. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have to say that the Smock does cut slightly better than the Cormorant, and it makes sense because the behind the edge thickness 0.022 on the Spyderco and then 0.025 on the Kizer. Before I go ahead and pick my winner, I would love to know, which one do you like more, or If you plan on getting one, you know, which is it going to be, go ahead and just sound off down in the comments. You probably already know that the Cormorant with its S35 VN blade does cost considerably less than the Smock in S30V. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of the Cormorant's blade shape with all of its excessive jimping going on, but the fact that it has better action, okay, a more usable sharpened edge, it's more of a practical EDC size, there's more deployment options, it comes with a deep carry pocket clip, and the lower price tag, I mean, how can I not recommend it? Look, unless you have like giant hands, I mean, the Smock is going to offer a larger handle, of course, but for those of us that have regular sized hands, you know, the Cormorant really is the way to go. All right, hey, the video up on the screen right now, I think you really should go ahead and check out next. And don't forget to go ahead and click on that subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. You know that. I'll see you at the next video. See ya. Take care.